Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Batter Up. I'm Jack Sauer. I'm here with Aiden Jarvis, Isaac Moretta, and Ryder Kaplan. Today, we're going to keep talking about the trade deadline. And the team that I want to talk about today is the Atlanta Braves. I mean, they're a team that was going into the season expected to be a top 5 team in the MLB. Obviously, they had their two best players in Spencer Strider and Ronald Acuna get injured. Do you think this team is still in World Series contention even after those injuries?
Yes, I do, especially because over the last few seasons, especially when they get in the playoffs, they've lost in the NLDS after winning the division to my Philadelphia Phillies. And something interesting is that Strider was not on the team and Acuna was injured when they won the World Series, and neither of them has performed that well in the postseason. So, be interesting to see if other guys will step up and make some big plays.
So you think they have a better chance without Acuna and Strider?
I think that they've had more success in the playoffs without Acuna and Strider, but Acuna and Strider are the reason they got to the playoffs. So if they can get to the playoffs, I think they'll be able to make a run.
Okay. I just don't understand. I think they're going to end up needing Acuna and Strider at some point because even when they didn't have Strider, they still had a ton of good pitching. And we'll see. I think a big part is Max Fried. He's kind of been on and off. He's been hurt. And I still think Max Fried is a really good pitcher. And I do think they can win without Acuna and Strider. But I think Max Fried really has to step up, and same with the other guys in their rotation. What do you think, Aiden? Do you think that they will make some big moves at the deadline to try and help them get there?
Yeah. With the way that their front office works, I think that it's very easy prediction to make that they will spend big in the trade deadline in order to make sure that they do make the postseason and probably will go very deep into the postseason. Some more big bats in the lineup would be very helpful. I mean, just their offense is not clicking right now, which is the reason I think that they're not winning enough games. So if they get that in check, I think they can go pretty far into the postseason.
So, Isaac, we were talking about the Rangers earlier and the possibility of them selling with Max Scherzer. Do you think that they could and here we have a question.
Keep going.
Do you think that he's a possibility that they could trade for him?
I mean, I think that the Rangers, they still have pretty much the same team as they did last year. I don't think that this is their year to go all the way. They've, struggled with injuries. I think if the Rangers just keep this core together for next year, they've got a bunch of young guys like Wyatt Langford, Evan Carter. I think that I don't think they buy or sell at this deadline. I think they stay the same.
So it seems we have a Rangers fan in the audience. What are your thoughts, Rangers, and what is your question?
Okay, so I feel mostly disrespected by your comments on the Rangers. However, that's not my question, though. So my question is, do you think a World Series matchup is inevitable between the Orioles and the Phillies?
No, I don't think it's inevitable because I think the Orioles, they are an incredible team, but they are also a really young team, and they don't have a lot of postseason experience yet, and I think that's going to bring them down in the postseason, and I think they can make a solid run, but I don't think that they're going to make it all the way to the World Series this year. We have another question in the audience.
Earlier, you guys talked about about possible moves at the deadline for the Braves, but in general, who do you think the biggest name is that might get traded here in this that trade deadline situation?
I think that it could be Luis Robert Jr. I think he's most likely to get traded. But of players that could get traded on bad teams, I think Jazz Chisholm, who was voted by players as the most overrated player, but has had kind of an under-the-radar level season on a terrible Marlins team, and put him in a team like the Brewers or the Orioles, and he could be a very useful bat, especially on a team like the Brewers that doesn't really have that many power bats besides Rhys Hoskins.
We have a question from a Red Sox fan in the audience here. What's your question?
I'm actually, although my Red Sox outfit, I am actually asking about the Washington Nationals. What do you think they'll do at the trade deadline?
Sell the whole team.
I mean, I think they're definitely sellers, but I'm not sure that they have a ton of moves that they can do to sell. What do you think, Aiden?
Yeah, I mean, the Washington Nationals, there's a couple good guys there, but the team pretty much, it's not going nowhere. It's not going to October, and it's definitely not going to win the World Series. So I think, if anything, they should sell and look to the future.
I mean, yeah, that team's already built to rebuild. They have a lot of young prospects right now. But a comment about even if they're not going to make the playoffs this year, but next year, especially a young team, the Orioles example that if the Nationals don't have that good of a level of farm system of what the Orioles did last year. But if you can just make the playoffs, anything can happen. I think the Phillies in 2022 demonstrated that, and then the Diamondbacks last year.
Yeah, obviously seeing that.
So it's just getting there is a goal, but I think the Nationals definitely might not be sellers because most of their good players are younger, but they're definitely in a rebuild right now.
Yeah, obviously we've seen the last seed in the National League has made it to the World Series every year. But we have another question in the audience here.
Okay, so I need to know your way too early 2025 World Series predictions. Also, do you think the Rangers have a chance in 2025?
I think in 2025, I think with Evan Carter, Wyatt Langford, and Josh Young, a few young stars, I think they are very good. But I think that if they can get better, I think that maybe not next year, but in a couple years, they can do really well. In like the last years of Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. But that should do it for our show today. It's sponsored by MLW. This segment was brought to you by MLW. Catch the best wiffle ball action on the internet on their YouTube page, MLW Wiffle Ball, and all of their socials. Also, they have a Summer of Stadiums tour is headed to many major and minor league ballparks all around the country. Look for play-by-plays call of the day after the first game of every series. Video is posted on their YouTube. Thank you for listening.